Good morning. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Larry. My life changed forever. The rest of my life changed forever when I turned 60. Life is short. It can change in a literal heartbeat. Mine didn't change in a heartbeat, but it did change. It was like watching a train wreck coming down the tracks, and there was no way to get out of the way. And that's my story. I've told bits and pieces of this story before, but I'm going to tell the whole story today. Let me know in the comments if you've had a life-changing event that just radically changed the rest of your life. Well, as a self-employed contractor, I was a painting and drywall contractor. I was working by myself one day. I don't know where my guys were, but all I know is I was working by myself in a high-rise senior building, uh, tearing out a wall and replacing the drywall. And I noticed in the morning that my knee was starting to bother me a little bit. My knee was starting to bother me. Of course, you're 7 stories up in a high rise, and your parking lot's about a quarter mile away. And I took a cart with me and thought I had everything I needed, but 3 or 4 times I had to walk out and get something out of my van. And I noticed as the day went on, it just kept getting hurt. It was getting hurting worse and worse and worse. By the time I got home, I couldn't walk. I called, the wife was working at that point, and I called her boss actually. I said, send Wendy home now. I need to get to the ER. So I went to the hospital, and my knee was swelled up. They put me on some muscle relaxers and some pain pills and sent me home. Well, and it finally went down after a few days. Well, let's fast forward about 2 weeks, and the other knee swelled up. The other knee. And I thought, oh no, what is going on here? So I had some of the muscle relaxers left and some painkillers. So I took those and wrapped it and iced it, and it went down in a couple of days. Well, a couple of weeks later, my right elbow, it looked like I had a baseball on the end of my elbow. At that point, I knew something bad was wrong. I knew something bad was wrong. So I went to my general practitioner, and she sent me to she did some blood work, and then after the blood work came back, she sent me to a rheumatologist. And I had rheumatoid arthritis at the age of 60, and my life literally changed forever. I went through 3 years of my life that I will never get back again. Never. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. I could barely walk. I could barely walk. Every joint hurt. Every step I took hurt. It was the most awful thing I've ever gone through in my life for that period of time. Now I can go through some short term stuff. If I know the end is in sight, I can weather any storm. But this was totally beyond me. My comprehension. I couldn't understand it. Well, with this disease, it's an autoimmune disease. With this one, they put you on this medication. Well, you got to stay on that medication for 6 months to see if it's working. Well, that one didn't work. So then they changed the medications again and stay on it for 6 or 8 months, and that didn't work. And during this time, I'm just going through hell on earth. I don't know how else to say it. By this time, I'd moved out of our bedroom because I was crying myself to sleep every night. The pain was so awful. I'll never forget this night. One particular night, I was in my one of my knees had swelled up so bad, and I couldn't do a thing about it. I iced it down. I took two, not one, but two Percocet. I don't know if I kill you or not, but I didn't care at that point. It hurt so bad, and the Percocet did not touch it. I eventually cried myself to sleep, I guess. I was screaming out in pain like a little 5-year-old girl just got stung by a bee. And it was embarrassing. And to say it was humbling is putting it mildly. Well, this went on. This went on for 3 years. I didn't have another incident quite that bad, but this went on for 3 years. Finally, the doctor put me on different medication. And I was on it for about a week. And it just so happened I woke up one morning, and as soon as I woke up, every morning when I woke up, I just knew it was going to be hurting. I mean, I used to cry out to God, heal me or take me. I'm done. I'm done with this life. I can't tell you how many times I told my wife. She probably got tired of hearing it. I hate my life. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't function. I couldn't do anything. And it hurt. One morning I woke up, but they tried this new medication. One morning I woke up and I wasn't hurting. I mean, yeah, I was 60 years old. I had some aches and pains, but I had no chronic pain. No chronic pain was there. And I put my feet out on the floor. I could stand up. Nothing hurt. Nothing hurt. I stood up. I stumbled downstairs a little bit, and nothing hurt. I thought, well, it must have been that new medication. Well, it wasn't. About a week later, I'd had a regularly scheduled appointment with my rheumatologist, and she came in the room, and I was in a good mood. I wasn't in pain anymore. Guess what? I'm in a good mood. And she said, well, you seem awful chipper this morning, Larry. I said, I am. Nothing hurts. If you've ever been in one of these offices or like a cardiologist or something like that, the waiting room isn't exactly filled up with people that are in really good health. And this particular office, these are all people in pain. And I wasn't in any pain. I felt kind of like a stranger in there. I wasn't in any pain anymore. I knew it had to be the new medication. So I asked her about it. She said, well, why? I said, well, I started that new medication a couple weeks ago, and about a week ago, I said, I wasn't hurting anymore. She said, Larry, that medication I gave you, prescribed for you, it takes at least 2 to 3 months for it to work, if it works at all. And that the light bulb went on in my head. I guess God got tired of me screaming at him, and maybe it's like the persistent widow. But I was done. He was done with me, and I'll chalk it up to both the medication and God. Maybe he used the medication. I don't know, but all I know is I wasn't in any pain anymore, and I got my life back. And I was thrilled. To say I was thrilled, I can't tell you. It changed my life. Now it's in remission. The blood markers still show it, but none of my joints hurt or anything. The blood markers still show it, but I'm good with that. I've been steady now and stable for the last several years, and the rheumatologist is thrilled, and I'm one of his success stories now. But here's what I learned from 3 years of going through hell on earth, literally, in my eyes. Here's what I learned. I got real emotional in my old age. I learned to live in the present. I don't dwell on the past. I do very little planning for the future. I just made a video about that recently. Do we plan for the future in retirement? Yeah, I do some, not much, but I live in the present. I live for today and tomorrow and next week, but beyond that, not a whole lot. Another thing I learned is things, material possessions mean very, very little to me. I have this watch I wear when I work out. It's an outdoors type watch. It's got a reflector thing on it, and it's got all kinds of bells and whistles on it. My wife got it for me like 25 years ago. It wasn't that. I mean, it was expensive. It was like $125 or something. She got it for me for Christmas. Well, when the battery dies after about every 2 or 3 years, I have to take it to a jeweler. Well, the jeweler I was taking it to get the battery replaced, they weren't in business. So I went to this other jeweler. I found a jeweler that did it. And I walked into this fancy pants jewelry store, probably looking like I do now, kind of looking like a bum. But I'll give them props, man. They didn't ignore me. They asked how they could help me, and I told them, and they said, yeah, it'll be about 15 or 20 minutes, but we can take care of that for you right now. It'll be $20. I said, great, take care of it. And while they were replacing the battery, I took a walk around this jewelry store. I felt like a lost ball in tall weeds, because I'll tell you what, the most expensive jewelry in there meant nothing to me. I didn't care one iota about it. It didn't mean anything. In fact, they probably would have had a heart attack if they'd known in my wallet was a credit card. I could have bought anything in that store if I wanted to, but I didn't want to because it meant nothing to me. Another thing I realized during this time frame, that relationships with people mean much more than digits in a bank account. Because, I look at my accounts every day, but those digits don't mean near as much as relationships with people. The biggest thing I learned out of this is what I have is enough. What I have is enough. I have plenty of food, got a roof over my head, got clothes to wear. I don't have to worry about the next meal. I have vehicles that get me from point A to point B. But I got to tell you, what I have is enough, and it was the whole experience was just very humbling. The biggest takeaway from this is it gave me a spirit of discernment. I'm able to see in other people. I can just look in somebody's eyes. I'm able to see if they're hurting. I'm able to see if they're angry. I'm able to see if they're sad. I'm able to see if they're happy. I just got that. God gave me that spirit. And in fact, a few weeks ago, there was a lady in church. I only see her. She only comes once in a while, but I've had a chance to be with her and her family on a few different occasions. But she came in and she looked at me and she gave me a little side hug, a little church side hug. And I said, I looked in her eyes. I said, something's bothering you. What's going on? And man, the waterfall turned on. There you are in the middle of the church. We're both married. Both our spouses were there. But she just leaned on me, hugged me like a bear hug type hug. And she was telling me about her dad and blah, 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 blah. And I don't mean to make light of it or anything, but I could tell that spirit of discernment has served me well. We grow during the tough times. I grew more. I can't tell you how many people, my friends, my close friends, which we only have a handful of really close friends, came up to me, months or years later and said, that really changed you for the better. I said, I know. Anyway, that's all I've got for right now. Maybe share this with somebody who's going through some things. There is some light at the end of the tunnel if you just stay persistent with it. And maybe it's just something you got to live with. I don't know, but maybe share it with somebody. Give them hope. We all get out of bed every morning because we hope today is going to be better than tomorrow, or the day yesterday. And but we need that hope in our life. That's all I've got for right now. If you got anything out of this, like, share, subscribe. Until we meet again, I'm going to continue to press on towards that goal.